Most people spend their lives asleep, dreaming of a world that plays fair. They've been fed a diet of bedtime stories about doing the right thing and waiting your turn by the very people who took their turn decades ago and slammed the door behind them. If you want to survive, let alone rule, you have to wake up. Reality doesn't reward the polite. It rewards the prepared. Machiavelli didn't write for the sheep. He wrote for the lions who realized the fence was an illusion. You are about to strip away the soft, useless parts of your mind, the parts that crave approval and fear conflict, and replace them with cold, calculated utility. Stop looking for a hero to save you. In the real world, the only person coming to save you is the one who wants something from you. You're currently stuck in a cycle of reacting to other people's moves, wondering why you're always the one left with the bill. You get out of that hole the second you realize that power isn't given, it's taken, and your mind is the first piece of territory you need to conquer. Wipe the glass clean. From here on out, everything is a move, everyone is a player, and the only sin is being a victim. The first principle is, forget good and bad. Most people are born into a set of rules they never agreed to. From the time you're a kid, you're told that being good means following the script, being nice means being easy to handle, and bad is anything that disrupts the peace. This is the first and most dangerous virus in your mind. If you want to reprogram yourself, you have to realize that good and bad are just labels used by the people at the top to keep the people at the bottom in line. In the real world, there is only what works and what fails. There is only power and the lack of it. Machiavelli wasn't a monster. He was a realist. He saw that the man who tries to be good in a world full of sharks will eventually be eaten alive. The shark isn't evil for eating. It's just being effective. If you want to survive and thrive, you have to stop looking at life through a moral lens and start looking at it through a strategic one. You need to kill the good guy version of yourself before someone else uses it to bury you. Think about the neighborhood fixer, the person everyone goes to when they need a favor. On the surface, they look like the ultimate good person. But look closer. They aren't doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They are building a mountain of debt. Every time they help you, they own a piece of you. The problem most people face is that they try to be helpful without building that debt. They do favors and feel good inside, but their bank account is empty and nobody respects them. They are the nice guy who gets passed over for the promotion, the reliable friend who gets ghosted when they finally need help, and the loyal partner who gets walked all over because they've made their kindness a free commodity. You solve this by shifting your mindset from morality to utility. Stop asking, is this the right thing to do? And start asking, does this move put me in a better position? Imagine you're at a job where your boss is a total incompetent who is dragging the whole team down. The good thing to do, according to the rulebook, is to be a loyal soldier, work harder to cover their mistakes, and hope someone in HR notices your integrity. That's a loser's game. The good path leads to you burning out while the boss takes the credit for your exhaustion. You get out of this by being necessary instead of nice. You don't fix their mistakes quietly in the dark. You let those mistakes breathe just enough for the higher-ups to feel the heat, while simultaneously making sure you are the only one standing there with the fire extinguisher. You aren't being mean, you are being effective. You are clearing the path for someone better, you, to take the lead. You stop playing the role of the martyr and start playing the role of the architect. In every interaction, you have to be a chameleon. A chameleon doesn't have a true color. Its color is whatever it needs to be to survive the environment. If you're dealing with a saint, speak the language of saints. If you're dealing with a wolf, show your teeth. Most people are stuck in one mode, usually the polite mode, because they're afraid of what people will think. They're afraid of being called bad. But being called bad by a person who wants to exploit you is actually a compliment. It means they've realized they can't control you. The trap is thinking that you owe the world a consistent, moral version of yourself. You don't. You owe yourself a version that wins. When you stop worrying about being good, you gain a massive advantage: flexibility. You can be the hardest worker in the room when it serves your goals, and you can be the first one out the door when the ship starts sinking. You can be the loudest cheerleader for a leader you plan to replace, or the silent observer who knows where all the bodies are buried. This isn't about being a villain for the sake of it. A villain is just as predictable as a hero, and predictability is weakness. This is about being liquid. If you are water, you can fit into any container. If you are a rigid, good person, you will eventually be broken by someone more flexible. The moment you stop judging yourself by other people's definitions of right and start judging yourself by your own results, the cage door swings open. You are no longer a character in someone else's play. You are the one writing the script. The second principle is to master the art of the mask. Your face is not a window to your soul. It is a tool for your survival. Most people walk through life as open books, wearing their every frustration, joy, and fear right on their sleeve for the world to see. They think being authentic is a virtue. But in the arena of power, authenticity is just another word for vulnerability. If everyone knows exactly what makes you angry, what makes you skip a beat, or what you're desperate for, they own you. Machiavelli's core teaching was that while it's great to actually have good qualities, it is far more important to appear to have them. You don't need to be a saint. You just need to look like one when the cameras are on. Think about the truth teller in the office, or the friend group, the person who just says it like it is. They think they're being brave, but they're actually just being a target. By showing their hand, they lose the element of surprise. The problem is that when you are transparent, you are predictable. And when you are predictable, you are easily bypassed, manipulated, or crushed. People can see your move coming from a mile away. You solve this by becoming a master of simulation. You learn to wear a mask that serves the moment, not your mood. Imagine you're sitting in a high-stakes meeting where your rival is winning. Your gut is twisting, you're sweating, and you want to snap. If you show that irritation, you've lost. You've signaled that they have power over your emotions. Instead, you wear the mask of the unbothered observer. You lean back, you offer a slight, enigmatic smile, and you ask a calm, piercing question. Suddenly, the power shifts. Because they can't read your reaction, they start to second-guess their own position. Your silence becomes a weapon. You get out of the emotional trap by realizing that your internal state is private property. No one gets a tour unless you're charging admission. This isn't about being a liar. It's about being a strategist. Look at the world of dating or social climbing. The person who shows they are starving for attention or a relationship never gets fed. Their desperation is written all over their face, and it drives people away. To fix this, you simulate abundance. Even if you're lonely or struggling, you walk into the room with the mask of someone who has 1,000 options. You act as if you are the one doing the world a favor by showing up. When you stop looking like a seeker, you start looking like a prize. Machiavelli noted that the vulgar crowd is always taken in by appearances and the outcome of an event. Most people won't look behind the curtain if the show in front of it is convincing enough. You can use this to your advantage by creating a public version of yourself that is beyond reproach. If you need people to trust you, wear the mask of the humble servant. If you need to intimidate a bully, wear the mask of the cold professional who has nothing to lose. The mistake most people make is becoming their mask. They get so used to the role that they forget who is underneath. A true Machiavellian knows the difference. You should be like an actor who plays a king on stage, but knows they are just a person when the curtains close. This mental distance allows you to stay objective. You can watch your mask, interact with others, and calculate the results without your ego getting in the way. If you are in a situation where someone is trying to bait you into an argument, the trap is your desire to be right or heard. You solve this by wearing the mask of the agreeable fool. You nod, you agree with their points, and you let them feel superior. While they are busy enjoying their ego stroke, you are quietly moving the pieces on the board to get what you actually want. They get the win in the conversation, you get the win in reality. Reprogramming your mind means accepting that your true self is for your inner circle, or maybe just for you. For the rest of the world, you provide the performance that gets the job done. Control your expressions, control your tone, and control the information you leak. When you master the mask, you aren't just a player in the game. You are the one who decides what the other players see. The third principle is to build your own fortress. In this world, if you don't own your life, someone else will rent it out to you for a price you can't afford. Most people live like vassals, those old-school peasants who lived on a lord's land. They think they're free, but they rely on a boss for money, a spouse for happiness, and the algorithm for their opinions. They are one bad mood or one layoff away from losing everything. Machiavelli's brutal truth was that a prince must never rely on the strength of others. He taught that mercenaries, people who are only there for the paycheck, will abandon you the second things get hot. If you want to reprogram your mind, you have to stop looking for a savior and start building a wall. Think about the person who stays in a toxic job or a dead-end relationship because they can't afford to leave. That is the ultimate prison. The problem isn't the boss or the partner. The problem is that the person has no fortress. They've built their entire life on someone else's property. They are vulnerable because they are dependent. You solve this by diversifying your power. You don't just have one skill. You have 3. You don't have one social circle. You have 4. You don't have one way to make money. You have a side hustle or a fallback plan that nobody knows about. When you have your own arms, your own resources and connections, you stop being a beggar. You can walk into any room, and more importantly, you can walk out of any room. Independence isn't about being a loner. It's about making sure that no single person can flip a switch and turn off your lights. Machiavelli insisted that a leader must have their own troops. In your life, your troops are your skills, your savings, and your reputation. If you rely on a company's reputation, you're a ghost. If the company disappears, you disappear. But if you build a personal brand and a network that belongs to you, you carry your fortress on your back. Imagine you're in a circle of friends where one person is the gatekeeper. They host all the parties. They know all the girls or guys, and they have all the connections. Everyone kisses their feet because they're afraid of being left out. This is a weak position. You solve this by becoming your own hub. Instead of waiting for the invite, you start hosting your own small meetups. You connect person A to person B. Suddenly, you aren't a guest in someone else's fortress. You've built your own. People start coming to you. You shifted the gravity of the room because you stopped being a consumer and started being a provider. Most people's minds are programmed to seek safety in numbers. They want to fit in, to follow the crowd, and to be liked. But the crowd is a shaky foundation. If the crowd changes its mind, you're finished. A Machiavellian mind sees safety in leverage. You want to be in a position where people need you more than you need them. Think about a specialized mechanic or a high-level coder. They can be as rude or as quiet as they want, and people will still line up to pay them. Why? Because they have a fortress of skill. They aren't asking for permission to exist. They are providing a value that can't be easily replaced. To get out of the disposable category, you have to find the thing you do better than anyone else and guard it like a state secret. Build your fortress out of no. The most powerful word in the human language is no, but most people are too scared to use it because they're afraid of the consequences. You build your fortress by having enough backup, enough money, enough options, enough self-respect that you can say no to a bad deal, a bad person, or a bad life. The moment you are willing to walk away is the moment you gain the upper hand in every negotiation. You aren't trapped, you are just visiting. Your mind becomes a fortress when you stop caring about the group's approval and start caring about your own objective strength. Stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "What is my position?" When your foundation is solid, the storms of life don't scare you. They just give you a chance to see who else's house is made of straw. The fourth principle is to strike while the iron is hot. Most people are professional waiters. They wait for the perfect moment, for the right signs, or for someone else to give them the green light. In the real world, the perfect moment is a myth invented by the timid to justify their cowardice. While they are busy checking the weather, the Machiavellian has already seized the mountain. If you want to reprogram your mind, you have to treat hesitation like a terminal disease. Speed is your greatest weapon. Think about the person who has a great business idea for 5 years. They talk about it at every gathering, every dinner, and every New Year's party. They're doing research and perfecting the plan. Then one day, they see someone else launch that exact idea and make millions. The person who launched didn't have a better plan. They just had a faster trigger finger. The problem isn't a lack of intelligence. It's the addiction to certainty. You solve this by shifting your internal clock. In every situation, there is a tiny window of opportunity, a rift in the status quo. Maybe a position opens up because someone got fired, or a competitor makes a public mistake, or a person you've been wanting to meet is standing alone for 10 seconds. Most people freeze. They think, "I should wait until I have more information." By the time you have all the information, the window has slammed shut. To win, you must be the person who moves while others are still processing what happened. Machiavelli taught that it is better to be impetuous than cautious. If you strike and miss, you can adjust. But if you never strike, you've already lost by default. Imagine you're in a social setting, a party, or a networking event. You see someone who could change your life, a mentor, a high-level investor, or a powerhouse in your industry. The old version of your mind tells you to wait for a formal introduction or wait until they aren't busy. That's the mercenary mindset, waiting for permission. You get out of that hole by realizing that power respects power. You walk up, you interrupt politely but firmly, and you make your pitch. Even if they say no, they will remember the person who had the stones to approach them. You've signaled that you are a player, not a spectator. Think about a project at work that's falling apart. Everyone is distancing themselves from it, afraid of the blame. The Machiavellian mind sees this as a golden ticket. You don't wait for the boss to ask for help. You step in, you take control of the mess, and you fix it before anyone even realizes you've started. By the time they look up, you aren't just an employee anymore. You are the savior of the project. You didn't ask for the crown. You just started wearing it until it became a fact. Reprogramming your mind means training yourself to value momentum over perfection. A good move made right now is worth 10 perfect moves made next month. When you see an opening, you don't nudge it, you kick the door down. Whether it's asking for a raise after a big win, cutting a toxic person out of your life the second they betray you, or jumping on a trend before it goes viral, you strike hard and you strike fast. A Machiavellian mind isn't built in a day of wishing. It's built in 1,000 moments of cold calculation. To move these principles from your head to your hands, you need a daily operating system that strips away the good guy fluff and keeps you focused on the scoreboard. Most people wake up and react to the world. You wake up and start shaping it. Use this audit every morning and every night to ensure you aren't the one being played. In the morning, before you check your emails or social media, you define your primary objective. Ask yourself, who is the biggest obstacle to my goal today, and how do I neutralize or bypass them? If someone is in your way, you don't complain. You find a way around. Next option. Choose your mask for the day. Look at your calendar. If you're meeting a difficult client, your mask is the patient professional. If you're leading a team that's getting lazy, your mask is the high expectation visionary. You decide your color before you walk out the door, so you aren't forced into a defensive reaction when things get tense. By noon, the world has already tried to knock you off balance. This is where you apply strategic redundancy. If a project is stalling, don't just sit there waiting for an update. Initiate a plan B immediately. If a friend cancels on you, use that time to connect with someone more influential. The problem most people face is that they let a single no ruin their day. You get out of that trap by having so many irons in the fire that you don't even notice when one goes cold. Before you sleep, be brutally honest with yourself. Did you act out of goodness today when you should have acted out of utility? Did your mask slip? If you lost your temper or showed your true intentions too early, acknowledge it as a tactical error. Review your fortress. Did you do one thing today to make yourself less dependent on others? Maybe you learned a new skill, saved a bit of walk-away money, or built a bridge to a new social circle. If you didn't, you're just as vulnerable as you were yesterday. The goal of the night is to ensure that tomorrow you are slightly harder to kill and slightly more impossible to replace. You solve the stagnation problem by making power building a daily habit, not a hobby. If you're tired of being the person who follows the rules while everyone else takes the prizes, drop a comment below and tell me which of these 4 principles you've been ignoring the most and how you're going to weaponize it tomorrow. Stay sharp. See you in the next one.